Women are now officially banned from wearing a full face of veils.
It's something we would limit all sorts of things that people do for their religious beliefs because we don't agree with it.
My name is Zahra Al-Alawi. I've been wearing the hijab for the past 20 years or so. Many people may believe that women who wear the hijab wear it because they are forced or that they have no say in the matter.
Women are now officially banned from wearing a full face of veils.
It's something we would limit all sorts of things that people do for their religious beliefs because we don't agree with it.
My name is Zahra Al-Alawi. I've been wearing the hijab for the past 20 years or so. Many people may believe that women who wear the hijab wear it because they are forced or that they have no say in the matter. We as Muslims follow the Quran. So, does the Quran actually command women to wear the hijab? I wanted to know exactly what the Quran has said in regards to modesty and the physical veil. Chapter 24, verse number 31, you see the Quran talking about and commanding women to wear the physical veil. You see the word khumur mentioned. Khumur is plural for khimar. The word khimar by definition means a piece of cloth that covers the head. So it's clear that the Quran does command women in wearing the head coverings and extending it to cover their heads and chests. If we look at another verse, chapter 33, verse number 59, the word jalabib is mentioned. Jalabib is the plural for jilbab, which means a loose outer garment. This means that the Islamic dress code, as described by the Holy Quran, for women is not just only the head covering, but it's also a loose garment which conceals the body. Any loose outer covering which does not reveal the body shape, be it an abaya, a loose shirt, or a loose dress, will do. So the combination of the head covering and the loose outer garment is the physical commandment of hijab, which the Quran clearly states. I have not been forced to wear the hijab. I truly believe in the commandments that the Quran has set down to us, but also I believe in the benefits of hijab. The hijab has freed me from the shackles of society. I'm no longer viewed for my physical appearance, but my inner intellect and my inner appearance. So hijab is my choice and it's my right.
Now invite Sayyid Hossein Qazwini to come forward and recite tonight's majlis by Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Salawat.
أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته المنتجبين قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. It has been narrated by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that he stated regarding marriage that there is no institution built in Islam greater than the institution of marriage. ما بني في الإسلام بناء أعظم من الزواج. In the eyes of Islam, in the view of Islam, marriage is an institution. It's not just a bond between two people tying the knot, so to speak. It's an institution. It's a foundation. Two people do tie the knot, but this is a holy matrimony. This is something very religious and very holy. When two people come together, they complete one another. A man and a woman, they complete one another. They complete each other's needs. And they turn into one soul. They complete each other's faith and religion. من تزوج فقد أحرز نصف دينه فليتق الله في النصف الآخر. He who marries has protected half of his faith. Let him be careful regarding the other half. Marriage is about finding a companion that provides you friendship. How beautiful it is for a couple not just to be a husband and wife, but to be friends. For there to be friendship between the husband and wife. This is missing in a lot of marriages. The husband does his thing, the wife does her own thing. They're not friends. They have their own friends, but they're not friends with each other. They're there for love, to love one another, and they're there to support one another. And support has different ways. There's financial support, there's emotional support. And one of the jobs of a marriage is to build a family, to raise children. This is a responsibility on the shoulders of youth today. That the product of their marriage have to be good children, law-abiding, God-fearing, pious, righteous, religious children. This is the outcome of the marriage. If you want to test the litmus test for any marriage, if you want to see if it's successful or not, look at the product. It's just like any business. If you want to see if this business is profitable or not profitable, look at the income and look at the profit. When it comes to marriage, look at the children. Look at the products of these children. How God-fearing, how law-abiding, how righteous are they? The more they are, the more successful that marriage is. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now tonight, although we're talking about marriage, but our topic is very specific, I'd like to address a question that I myself and many of my colleagues receive. It's a very common question wherever I travel. And the question is, can a Shi'i marry a Sunni? Can a Shi'i male marry a Sunni female? Can a Shi'i female marry a Sunni female? This question is very common, and it needs to be addressed. Intra-faith marriages, within, what I mean by intra-faith is within one faith. Intra-faith marriages were common in certain places. For example, in Iraq. In Iraq, intra-faith marriages were very common. A Sunni marrying a Shi'i marrying a Sunni. This was all before this chaos that occurred post-2003, after the U.S. invaded Iraq and the fall of Saddam and the ISIS and all of this chaos. Before all of that, intra-faith marriages were very common. A Sunni marrying a Shia marrying a Sunni. This was something very normal. In fact, Sunnis and Shi'is, they lived in the same neighborhood. In the same neighborhood. They might have worshipped in the same mosque, they shopped at the same grocery store. Today, come to Iraq, you will not find one neighborhood that has both Sunnis and Shi'is, unfortunately. That's history. That's one part of history of Iraq that will probably take decades for it to return. Previously, Sunnis and Shi'is, they lived in the same neighborhood. In Ramadan, they would have iftar together, they had suhoor together. They were brothers and sisters, and they married from each other as well. This doesn't exist today. It was very common, for example, if a young man from southern Iraq, Nasiriyya, Amara, would go and study, for example, in Mosul, or study in Al-Anbar, and he would meet a Sunni female, and they'd get married. I know many Iraqi couples, the husband is a Sunni, the lady is a Shi'i, or vice versa. Or someone from Al-Anbar province or Al-Mosul would come and study, for example, in Karbala or in Kufa, and he'd meet a Shi'i young lady, and they'd get married. This was common in Iraq. It might be common in other places in the Middle East, maybe in Pakistan, maybe in Lebanon. You might find intra-faith marriages something quite common. For most people living outside of the Middle East, living in the West, we are not confined to the people of our own school of thought. You will meet people from other schools of thought at your mosque, at the grocery store, at school, at work. We're not confined just to our own people. We live in a society where people from different faiths and different backgrounds and different schools of thought, they all exist. So it's very common for some youth to meet someone else from the other school of thought. One could be a Sunni, the other could be a Shi'i. So the question is, if you meet someone suitable, in your eyes at least, someone who's suitable, has the right education, the person is religious, law-abiding, God-fearing, but the person has another school of thought. He's a Sunni or he's a Shi'i. She's a Sunni or she's a Shi'i. What does Islam say about this kind of marriage? Does it encourage it or does it discourage it? Our youth nowadays, those who go to university, they're not only going to be seeing Shi'as, they're going to be seeing Sunnis as well. Those who go to work, this is something very normal. So should we be encouraging them to get into a sushi, so to speak, marriage? Or does Islam discourage a sushi sort of marriage? As for parents, should they allow such a thing? Or should they panic? If their son, Shi'i son, comes home and says, I found a Sunni wife, should the parents panic and be alarmed? Or there's no reason to be alarmed? These cases are very common and they occur in many of our communities, and hence we should not give them a blind eye. Rather, we should embrace such a topic and address it in the proper manner, inshallah. My discussion will be of twofold. One, can we marry a Sunni? Two, should we marry a Sunni? So one, is a sushi marriage permissible? Is it halal or is it not halal? Two, should it happen? Should a sushi marriage take place or it shouldn't take place? Is it advisable or is it not advisable? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So hopefully everyone has had iftar, so when I say sushi, no one gets hungry, inshallah. Let's examine this topic from a historical point of view, first of all, before we take a legal perspective. From a historical point of view, the Ahlul-bayt, when we look at their lives, in their marriages, were they confined only to their followers and only to their family members, or did they marry someone else outside of their circle? Of course, I won't say that they marry anyone Sunni, because these titles, Sunni and Shi'i, they didn't exist at the time of the Prophet, nor did they exist at the time of several of the first Ahlul-bayt. Maybe these titles, they were introduced later on, perhaps even after the time of Imam al-Sadiq. Perhaps even, maybe at the time of Imam al-Sadiq that word was being used. لن يلال من شيعتنا مستخفا بصلاة. Perhaps in the words of Imam al-Sadiq, we might find the usage of the word Shi'i. But before that, there was no, these two terms, Sunni and Shi'i, they weren't even coined at the time, right? But the idea was there. Even if the term didn't exist, but the idea was there. There were those who followed the school of thought of Ahlul-bayt and those who followed the school of thought of the Sahaba. So did such marriages take place? Absolutely. In one case, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, Amir al-Mu'mineen married Asma bint Umays. Asma bint Umays was the widow of Abu Bakr. He married her. And at the time, she had Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. So she had a child from Abu Bakr. Yet Amir al-Mu'mineen did not say this is the wife of the Khalifa, the usurper, no, he didn't. He didn't say any of this. He still married Asma bint Umays. It was a very legitimate marriage, and he raised Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. Amir al-Mu'mineen raised Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, the son of Abu Bakr. So this was one such marriage. Another marriage that historically is controversial, some say it took place, others say it didn't take place, but there is a narration in Al-Kafi that states that the second Khalifa Umar married the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Kulthum. So this was a Sushi marriage that took place. Umar married Kulthum. There's a narration in Al-Kafi. There are some contemporary historians that question the fact and they say this didn't take place. Okay, if you don't accept this example, there are other examples. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. Imam al-Hasan married Ju'da, the one who poisoned him. And she was the daughter of Al-Ash'ath ibn al-Qais, or Ash'ath ibn Qais. Ash'ath ibn Qais was a Kharijite. He was very stubborn. In fact, he even attempted to kill Imam Ali alayhi salam. There's a narration in Al-Kafi by Imam al-Sadiq. He says, إن الأشعث ibn Qais شرك في دم أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام. So he tried to kill Imam Ali. وابنته جعدة سمت الحسن. His daughter killed Imam al-Hasan. ومحمد ابنه شرك في دم الحسين. And his son, Muhammad, participated in the killing of Imam Hussein. So a family that participated in the killing of 3 infallible Imams, yet Imam al-Hasan married Ju'da, the daughter of Al-Ash'ath ibn Qais. Perhaps she was not a Nasibi, because if she's a Nasibi, there's an issue that we'll get to at the end. Nasibi meaning showing hatred towards Ahlul-bayt. That is not allowed, definitely. You're not allowed to marry someone who's a Nasibi. We'll get to that, inshallah. Al-Banin. Al-Banin, the wife of Amir al-Mu'mineen, was related to Shimr ibn al-Jawshan, the killer of Imam Hussein. That is why, in the Maqatil, if you remember, on the day of Ashura, Shimr ibn al-Jawshan came and gave aman. He gave security to whom? Abu al-Fadl Abbas and his brothers. He said, our nephews, they have aman. Abu al-Fadl Abbas told him, may Allah curse you and curse your aman. He was related. From his mother's side, he was related. Another example, Layla, the mother of Ali al-Akbar. The mother of Ali al-Akbar, she was the granddaughter of Abu Sufyan, from his daughter Maymuna. That makes Muawiyah her uncle, and Yazid her cousin. And also Ali al-Akbar, that makes him the grandchild of Abu Sufyan. He also was given an aman on the day of Ashura. He was told, you don't need to fight because you're related to Bani Umayyah. This marriage existed. Now this, some might contest. Some say, well, this is not a fact. Okay, you might contest one example, 2 examples, but you can't contest all of these examples. Al-Imam Al-Rida and his son Al-Imam Al-Jawad, they were both married to two daughters of Al-Ma'mun Al-Abbasi, the Khalifa. One was given to Al-Imam Al-Rida, and the other was given to his son Al-Imam Al-Jawad, who was Al-Fadl, that poisoned her husband. She poisoned Al-Imam Al-Jawad, Al-Fadl. So these are historical marriage, sushi marriages, so to speak, that took place throughout history. The Ahlul-bayt, they married from the other school of thought. They married. You might ask why. Why did these marriages take place? There were no good wives at the time. There was no one from the Ahlul-bayt for them to marry. Marriage, my dear friends, at the time had a political significance. It had a political significance. When you marry, you're forming a political alliance. By the way, the marriage of Imam Rida and Imam Al-Jawad to the daughters of Al-Ma'mun, this basically occurred by force. Because Al-Ma'mun basically forced Imam Rida and Imam Al-Jawad to marry his daughters to show the people that, see, I have nothing against the Ahlul-bayt. Anyway, so marriage was a form of political alliance. Most of the marriages of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam were political. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Rasulullah did not marry out of lust, out of desire. Proof of that is most of his wives are widows. Most of them were old. If he wanted to marry for lust and desire, he would go and marry young wives. Most of them were old. So it was either for political alliances or he was taking care of a widow or someone who's divorced. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So this is from a historical perspective. How about from a legal perspective? Is a sushi marriage allowed in Islam? Is it halal or is it haram? According to perhaps 99% of our scholars, I'm leaving 1% just in case someone said it's haram. But to the best of my knowledge, all of our scholars have said it is halal. The only criteria when it comes to faith that your spouse has to have is Islam. That's it. As for being a Shi'i, no one sets this sort of condition. So for example, Al-Muhaqqiq Al-Hilli in Shara'i Al-Islam, this is a well-established book in Hawza, it's a fiqhi book. He says, Al-Kafa'ah shartun fi nikah wahya al-tasawi fi al-Islam. They need to be equal, the husband and wife. How? Through Islam. That's it, nothing else. And then he asks, وَهَلْ يُشْتَرَطُ التَّسَاوِي فِي الْإِيمَانِ? And they have to be equal in Iman. Meaning, do they both have to be Shi'i? He says, there are two narrations. فِيهِ رِوَايَتَانِ أَظْهَرُهُمَا الْإِكْتِفَاء بِالْإِسْلَامِ. He says there are two narrations, but most likely, you don't need to be both mu'min. You don't need to be Shia. Being a Muslim is enough. And then he says, وَإِن تَأَكَّدَ اسْتِحْبَابُ الْإِيمَانِ. Yes, it is recommended to marry a Shi'i, but it is not wajib. So it won't be haram if you marry a Sunni. Also, Sheikh Muhammad Hassan al-Najafi, the author of Jawahir al-Kalam, he says, الْمَدَارُ عَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ فِي النِّكَاحِ. The criteria when it comes to marriage is Islam. They don't need to be Shia. And he says, وَإِنَّ جَمِيعَ فِرَقِهِ الَّتِي لَمْ يَثْبُتْ لَهَا الْكُفْرَ بِنَصْبٍ أَوْ غُلُوٍ أَوْ نَحْوِ ذَلِكَ مِلَّةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ. All of the sects of Islam, they're considered one faith and one religion, except nawasib, except those that are deemed as kuffar or as nawasib, and we'll talk about them later on. And so on. If you open any Risal al-Amaliyah, they will tell you that a Sunni marrying a Shi'i marrying a Sunni is allowed. Yes, in some cases, it is makruh for a Sunni man to marry a Shi'i woman. It is makruh. While it is not makruh for a Shi'i man to marry a Sunni. This is according to the traditional Risalas. You might see other opinions, but this is the opinion of Sayyid al-Sistani. Also, there is a Sahih narration. Sahih Abdullah ibn Sinan قال سألت أبا عبد الله الصادق بما يكون الرجل مسلما يحل مناكحته وموارثته وبما يحرم دمه. What is it that with that thing a man, we could give him we could give him a woman for marriage. We can inherit from him and give him inheritance. He said, يَحْرَمُ دَمُهُ بِالْإِسْلام. His blood becomes haram through Islam. إِذَا ظَهَرَ وَيَحِلُّ مُنَاكَحَتُهُ. And you could give him a wife. You could give him a daughter as long as he's a Muslim. He says the Shahadatain. He does not need to be Shi'i. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Some scholars, and I'll mention two examples, Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani and Ayatollah Sayyid Shirazi, Sayyid Muhammad Shirazi. They say that a Sushi marriage, a Sunni Shi'i marriage, is allowed except if you fear of being affected by the spouse. So a Sunni husband marries a Shi'i wife. The Shi'i wife, she fears being affected of her becoming a Sunni herself. Then here it becomes haram. They can go into a marriage as long as they respect each other's schools of thought and faith. But if they have the intention of converting one another, if the Sunni man has the intention of converting his Shi'i wife, and the Shi'i wife really fears being converted or being manipulated, or here, the Sayyid Sistani and the Sayyid Shirazi, they say no. Sayyid Sistani says, يَجُوزُ زَوَاجُ الْمُؤْمِنِ مِنَ الْمُخَالِفَةِ غَيْرَ النَّاصِبِيَّةِ. A Shi'i man can marry a Sunni wife as long as she's not a Nasibi. كما يجوز زواج المؤمن من المخالف غير الناصبي على كراهة. A Shi'i woman can marry a Sunni man as long as he's not a Nasibi, but it is discouraged. مكروه. نعم إذا خيف عليه أو عليها الضلال حرما. If the Shi'i man or the Shi'i woman, they fear of being affected, then here it is haram. Here they cannot go into this form of marriage. And this is logical. I think even Sunni scholars would agree. Because even according to Sunni scholars, it is okay to marry a Shi'i. They allow it as well, except maybe some radicals. Otherwise, in the four schools of thought, the Hanbali, the Hanafi, the Shafi'i, the Maliki, you're allowed to marry a Shi'i, except in the cases of fear of being converted. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now there are three exceptions. We said the criteria in marriage is Islam, saying the Shahadatain. That is it. And of course being genuine about it. There are three exceptions. The ghulat. This is one school of thought. We are not allowed to marry, whether it's a man or a woman. Who are the ghulat? Those who attribute to the Ahlul-bayt divine qualities. Divine qualities. The qualities of Allah we attribute to the Ahlul-bayt. This is ghulu. In fact, we consider them kuffar. Ghulat, they're not Muslim. They claim to be Muslim. But they worship Ahlul-bayt. They don't worship God. So this is one group. Two, an-nawasib. Those who publicly show hatred towards Ahlul-bayt. This is not allowed. Nawasib, we're not allowed to marry. Three, khawarij. Khawarij, those who revolted against Imam Ali and those who revolt against the Imam of their time. Khawarij, there's two types. Those who publicly show their hatred towards the Ahlul-bayt, they're basically nawasib, we can't marry. Those who don't show hatred towards Ahlul-bayt, we can marry. So the Khawarij, it goes back to being a Nasibi. Are they a Nasibi or are they not a Nasibi? If they are, we cannot. If they're not a Nasibi, we can marry them. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So we had the historical perspective on a Sunni Shi'i marriage. We had the legal perspective. I conclude by the following. So a Sushi marriage is allowed. Is it halal? But is it encouraged? Do we encourage our youth to marry from other schools of thought? Here, I will give you my personal and humble opinion. I don't encourage it. Not because it's haram, not because we Shi'as, we don't allow marriage with Sunnis. We have a theological problem, we have a jurisprudential problem that our school of thought doesn't allow this. No. It's halal as we discussed, and it's fine. Not because I have a bias against Sunnis, but because of having a healthy marriage. See, my dear friends, the point of marriage is to bring comfort to the home. Why would someone get married? To be comfortable, to be complete, to have a stable home. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. One of His signs is that He created from your souls, أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُم. This is one of the beauty, that our spouses, they're from our souls. مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُم أَزْوَاجًا. What is the purpose? لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. The purpose of marriage is sakina, is comfort, peace, stability, to have stability at home. A man or a woman, they come from a long day of work, there's stress, there's pressure. They want to come home for comfort. They want to sit with their spouse, enjoy a meal, sit, discuss, chat, laugh, talk, right? They want a peaceful environment at home. When a Sunni marries a Shi'i, usually, of course there's always exceptions, usually there's tension. Sometimes, I would like to emphasize, I'm speaking generally, there's always exceptions. Someone will come and say, well, Sayyid, this does not apply to my marriage. I've married a Sunni and we're completely happy. I know another couple, they're married, a Sunni and a Shia, they're very happy. Good. But these are outliers. These are exceptions. Generally speaking, there'll be tension. For example, parents will be involved. The Sunni parents or the Shia parents, they'll get involved. Or the community. Most of the communities, they're not happy with the Sunni Shi'i marriage, right? So during Ramadan, which mosque do they go to? Do they go to the Sunni mosque or do they go to the Shi'i mosque? On Laylatul Qadr, do they do Ihya on the night of the 23rd or on the night of the 27th? Leave Ramadan. What do they do in Muharram? Can the Shi'i go to Muharram and practice and cry for Imam Hussein and beat their chest and be a Shi'i? Will the Sunni spouse be okay with that? On Eid, will they go to a Shi'i mosque or a Sunni mosque? So these are all factors that might create tension in the marriage. And the purpose of marriage is to bring peace and harmony to the family. Let's put all of this aside. There'll be a couple that say, you know what, we're very open-minded. One night in Ramadan, we'll go to a Sunni mosque, and the other night, we'll go to a Shi'i mosque. And on Laylatul Qadr, we'll do both. We'll do the 23rd night and the 27th night, right? And what are you going to do on Ashura? Are you going to cry or are you going to go fast? They'll do both, okay? This couple is very open-minded, they'll do both. What about the children? What about these poor Sushi kids? What are they going to be? Are they going to be Sunni or are they going to be Shi'i? They're going to be confused. You're going to confuse them. Some say, I will marry a Sunni wife and I will not be affected. Good for you. The Sunni wife will say, I'll marry a Shi'i man and I won't be affected. Good for you. But what about the kids? These kids are going to be confused. They don't know what to do. Are they going to pray with their arms crossed or their arms down? Are they going to put a muhr and a turba or they're not going? Are they going to say, Ashhadu anna Aliyan waliyullah in the adhan, or are they going to say, As-salatu khayrun min an-nawm in the adhan? When they go to Hajj, Hajj is a different story. Hajj is a completely different story. Are they going to ziyarah or they're not going to go to ziyarah? See, the kids. You have to think of the kids. Some youth, they say, I'm in love. I'm in love with a Sunni. I'm in love with a Sunni girl and I'm going to marry her. Even if my entire community boycotts me, my parents boycott me, and it's halal. I heard Hossein Qazwini on the member says, think of your kids. You don't want to have kids? In 5 years, 10 years, you're going to have kids. How are you going to raise these kids? They're going to be confused. They're not going to know what to do. And there will be tension. Maybe now that you're single, maybe now that you don't have kids, there's no tension. But when you have kids, the Shi'i wife, she says, I want to take him to the Shi'i mosque. The Sunni man says, I want to take him to the Sunni mosque. On Ashura, the Shi'i wife wants him to go and commemorate Imam Hussein. The Sunni man says, no, he has to fast. This is a day of celebration. So what does the kid do? Does he celebrate on Ashura or does he commemorate on Ashura? So when I say I discourage it, it's from this point of view. Not because it's haram or we have a problem with our Sunni brothers and sisters. No, we don't have any problem with them. I reiterate what our grand marja' said. Ayatollah Sayyid al-Sistani. Regarding Sunnis, he said, don't say they are our brothers. Say they are ourselves. We don't have a problem with our Sunni brothers and sisters because they are ourselves. But when I say I discourage a sushi marriage, this is what I mean. The purpose of marriage is to bring peace and harmony and stability. For some, they think they could do it, and even with their children, that's up to them. But if you want my advice, I say if there are young men and young women from your own communities that are Shia, why look outside of your community? Why look outside of your... There's plenty of Shia youth, plenty of Shia young men, and plenty of Shia young women. If not here in Orlando and another place in the United States, if not in the United States, in Europe, in Australia, New Zealand. There's so many of our youth. Why go out and look outside of your community? I say this not just for non-Shia, for Sunnis. No, even from the Shia community. Start from your own community. Even if you want to marry a Shia from a different community, I say start from your own community. There's a lot of young men and women in your own community. Imagine if all the young men in this community here in Orlando, for example, they decide to marry wives from other states. What will the young ladies do here in Orlando? Or the young ladies, they decide on marrying young men from another state. What will the brothers here do? Marry from your own communities. You grew up with each other. You know each other very well. You know each other's reputation. You know about each other's past. Your customs, your habits, they're all the same. Marry from your own communities. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to guide us and to guide our youth to the right path. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم إني أسألك أن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر من الأمر المحتوم في الأمر الحكيم من القضاء الذي لا يرد ولا يبدل أن تكتبنا من حجاج بيتك الحرام المبرور حجهم المشكور سعيهم المغفور ذنوبهم المكفر عنهم سيئاتهم وأن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر أن تطيل عمري في خير وعافية وتوسع في رزقي وتجعلني ممن تنتصر به لدينك ولا تستبدل بي غيري أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلتي هذه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه ولأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات. الفاتحة مع الصلوات.